always had a bike. I remember my first bike. Man, my mom got me my first bike when I was in the 3rd grade, and I loved it. Everybody loved the bikes, man, and it's an awesome way to get around. It's an awesome way to travel. I love them.
Where I grew up, if an adult had a bicycle, it's because it was usually for a bad reason, that they just couldn't have a car. When I moved into town, I realized that bicycling was really fun and it was a great way to get around. So starting in about 2012, I got a bike and just started riding little short trips to work.
I'll ride just about every day. If it's too slick, I will walk typically. So it's either a bike commute for, 11 months of the year, and then maybe some days when it's very cold or very slick, walking.
I've had a tricycle and some little tiny bikes with training wheels when I was 3 or 4, and then on my 10th birthday I got my first big Gary Fisher bike, and it was a mountain bike. And from then I could start biking to school, and like when there's music at the Uptown Circle.
I didn't think the campus was gonna be like really huge that I would need to like ride a bike all around, but like I always just like riding a bike. And I first rented a bike like from like campus, and then in the summer of that same year, 2014, like I actually bought a bike.
I bike to the grocery store when I have to pick something up, for my wife. I bike to the church. When I was working at State Farm, I rode my bike to work. It got me there on time. And it was a good exercise for me too. It just changed my whole life.
During the school week I have to bike to school. If I have a music lesson, I have to bike to Cook Hall. If there's music at the Uptown Circle.
Illinois State University has approximately 21,000 students, and biking is very significant on campus. Our public transportation system is very good, but students really want to be able to grab a bike and ride around town, go grocery shopping, do some of those social activities that they're used to.
It's just a good way to get around. I don't want to ride in the street. I see a lot of bikers do, but I'm not gonna do it.
We don't have many places in town where the roads are well suited to cyclists. So we have a few bike lanes here and there, but it's kind of scattershot at this point.
Most of the streets are not a biker-friendly environment, and occasionally I will see myself going on a sidewalk when I would much rather be going down the street.
While we have some bike lanes and the bike pedestrian pathways are really good, they still don't feel extraordinarily safe. And some of those pathways are not well marked. They're in really high traffic areas.
And the cars will ride right up on you. They'll ride real close to you. They'll make you uncomfortable, and it's a thing. It's something that I'm always a little bit concerned of.
I'd like a driver to look at me on my bike and think, there goes someone's mom, there goes someone's wife. She's a nice person, I don't want to hurt her. I will give her plenty of room. People just aren't thinking that way. They're not thinking bad things about you, they're just not thinking. And that's a problem.
We need to let drivers know that cyclists are present and educate them about how to interact with cyclists on the street. I think a lot of the reason that people have a perception of drivers being discourteous to them when they're riding their bikes is that drivers just aren't educated as much as they should be about how to interact with cyclists. A lot of drivers want to do things well, but they don't really know how.
If I were trying to make the system safer for bicyclists and more enjoyable, frankly, I think driver education would be a big part of it, just having drivers understand what it's like to be on a bicycle and be a safer driver around bicycles.
Like also to educate both motorists and I guess people who ride bicycles about like, maybe like communication between bikes and like cars on the road, like what signals mean, for example, and like what a bike is supposed to do or what a motorist is supposed to do when they encounter a bike and just things like that.
So I think the education part is huge. Even before I was a cyclist, I really didn't understand the laws and how a cyclist actually has a right to a spot on the lane. I know when I was getting fitted for my bike, one of the first things I asked them was, can I ride in the street? And how does that sound? I'm an adult and I'm asking, can I ride my bike in the street? But I'm trying to figure out, how do I navigate in between the few streets that we have in town that have a dedicated bike lane or bike area versus being able to ride in the street. And it was interesting how even some of them told me, it's like, well, yeah, you can ride in the street, but I'd stay away from certain streets.
I've seen like a couple of roads with like, bike lanes, and I think it helps because like then it helps you know, especially if a road is pretty busy or just in general, like you feel like there's a place for like biking.
I'd like to see more things on the road, you know, to warn drivers. Be mindful, watch out for bikers.
There are places where I'd like to see better bike-friendly facilities, like share rows and signage, share the road signage.
It would be great if we had more bike lanes around the community and especially physically protected bike lanes. So cycle tracks or curb protected bike lanes or other infrastructure that is really separated between cyclists and cars.
And more lanes. Biggest thing, more bike lanes. Any place you can squeeze one in, throw us an extra bike lane.
Building a better culture, I think, around bicycling would be helpful.
13% of households in Bloomington don't have access to a car. Right now, the streets are really set up just for people with cars, and that excludes all of those people. They don't have a great way to get to work, to get to the grocery store, go to restaurants. I think we really should redesign the community so that it's accessible to everyone, not just the people who happen to have access to a car.